ultimately, if you are doing something you love, you have to let that feed your soul, and not really worry so much about actually booking the job, because that will be a hindrance to you. That's going to be your obstacle.
So I just want to tell everyone, because I had no idea that you had been casting this long, but honestly, I've been in this business for 25 years, so I don't know why it floors me, but you started out in feature film casting.
Yeah.
Back in like the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And then you moved over about 6 years after casting features, you moved into commercial casting.
Yeah, I did.
What?
With Lisa Fields.
With Lisa. I love Lisa. And so can you just give us like a little bit of like background about, for anybody here who doesn't know who you are, which I don't know who wouldn't, but
probably quite a few. Background on how I got started with this?
How did you get into casting, and and I'm curious as to when you made the shift from feature film to commercial, and what prompted you to do that?
Okay. I graduated from USC Film School and needed a job. And so I found an internship through their production book, and it was on a film called My Girl 2. So I worked on that, and then got asked to stay on as an assistant, because the assistant at that time was actually an actress, and she had to keep going out on auditions.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. So she wasn't going to be around much. So the casting director at the time was Alan Berger, and he asked me to stay on. So I did that, and I was such an eager beaver at that time. Like, I just wanted to do everything. So I would go through the scripts and take out scenes that had been cut out, and then put them together into a new script, and I gave it to the director. I was just doing everything. I would go to the set, and I would carry around like craft service trays. I'd help out the craft service guy. I just wanted to do everything. Yep. So that was actually a really fun time during those days. But I worked in features for 6 years, ended up working with Ivan Reitman's films, like all the films he directed during that time, like Junior and 6 Days, 7 Nights, and Father's Day. And I worked with an amazing casting director, Michael Chinich, who Hurly Burly is about, him and his friends.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. He's a legend. Was like the executive producer for John Hughes films. And I mean, he was amazing to work with. And then, but unfortunately, Ivan's company, he decided to move to Montecito. And I had just bought a house here, and I didn't want to move. So I ended up, through a friend of mine who's also a casting director, Allison McBride.
Of course.
Yeah. So she referred me to Lisa Fields, because Lisa was looking for someone. And then I worked with Lisa for like 6 years. Another 6 years. And then decided to go off on my own. That's it.
I love it. I love it. And what prompted you to go from features to commercials? Like, it is a different process.
Very different.
Features is much longer.
Yeah.
And so do you prefer one or the other?
Honestly, I love working with the actors, of course, on feature films. It's a lot of material for the actors to work on it. And, even the one-liners, we spent a lot of time looking for those people. Like, every role was super important.
Yeah.
In commercials, I mean, I feel like in commercials, every role is super important. We kind of spend a lot of time on everything. But I really love the people in commercials. I love agents in commercials. Like, yeah, exactly like you. I mean, the friendships that I struck in commercials with the agents, the directors, the producers, everybody, it was so different than what I saw in feature films. I was doing studio stuff, so it may be like, I'm sure the independent scene might be a lot different. But, yeah. But no, I mean, like theatrical agents, it's a different relationship that you have than with commercials.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I've had this conversation before, not with the casting director actually, but I say this all the time. There's just an intimacy that I find that I have with commercial casting directors that I don't quite have with feature film and TV. I mean, I have relationships,
Right.
There's just this openness that we all have in commercials that I'm not sure exactly why that doesn't translate into the feature film. I'm not sure.
I think there's so much more of a hierarchy built in the structure of feature films compared to commercials. Like I think,
Yeah.
on commercials, the first 2 weeks that I started working in commercials, I was already friendly with so many agents.
Yeah.
And I spent 6 years in movies, and I can think of maybe 2 people I would consider myself friendly with there.
Wow.
And it's just a different, I guess that maybe they feel like the work is a lot more important. There's a lot more flow that they're having to deal with. They put a lot of distance between themselves and casting directors and casting associates, and it's not like in commercials. Like commercials, I think one of my first friendships in commercials with an agent, like it was Chaz King at Acme.
Oh, I was with Acme when I was an actor.
Oh my gosh, there you go. So you knew Chaz. So
yeah,
he used to sing to me. Like every time I pick up the phone, he'd start singing, and I'd know it was him. And it was, like you don't get that in theatrical. No agent is going to get on the phone and sing to you.
No. I love that. I love that. Yeah, there's a camaraderie that we all have, because I feel like we're all kind of in it together, and we're all trying to help each other.
Yeah, exactly.
And also because your commercials are turning over so quickly, we're constantly working together over and over and over again.
Right. Yeah.
So I have a boatload of questions for you.
Okay.
And feel free, like if we go off, I'm fine with this, like going everywhere, right? So I'm wondering, because you've been doing this so long, is there something in particular that keeps the spark fresh for you, keeps you excited about casting?
I think for me now, it's all about the people. It's the actors, it's the agents, it's the people I work with, my camera guys, my assistants, the directors, the producers. Like it's all the relationships, because it is so different in the commercial world. And I feel like it's a lot more kind of geared towards a family vibe,
Yeah.
And I feel like we've created that, in our studio, and we look forward to going to work because of that. And I love having actors come back and visit me and hang out and talk for a bit. And that's really what keeps it going for me. I mean, I of course love the work too, but it's all about the relationships in the end. That's all you want.
So I have a question for you. Because you've been working with actors for so long, and I like to ask everyone this. There's a lot of rejection in this business.
Oh yeah.
And actors can come in and they can do a beautiful job for you and leave feeling like, oh, I got that. And everybody in this business has to deal with rejection, and I just wonder if you have something specific that you say to actors about rejection.
Across the board, I try and impress on them not to take it personally, because it is such a personal job that they've taken on. They're putting themselves out there, so that is their work. So it's hard not to take that personally, but I always try and tell them, there's so many factors that are involved behind the scenes. They would be mortified if they sat on the other side and saw the conversations that go on and the reasons why they pick this person or that person. And a lot of times it has nothing to do with the job that they did. We've seen a lot of times where the best person for the job isn't the person that gets it. And not to say that the people who do get it shouldn't be there, but there's always a reason, whether it's, oh, the person that is amazing actually looks like the agency's ex-boyfriend and she's mad at him and she doesn't like his face.
Exactly.
I mean, it comes down to things like that sometimes. And unfortunately, that, it enters into the reason why some people are rejected. But I try and say, don't look at it as rejection. Like, it's practice. Every single time you go into an audition, it's a chance to do what you love. And, whether someone hires you because of it or not, you're still learning something from it, and as long as you keep that kind of attitude about it, which I know it's hard because at the end of the day, we all want to make money, but,
right.
But to not let the frustration get to you is I think really important, because that also enters into your performance on the next audition.
Right. And I also just want to just take a moment, because how many submissions do you get for each role? Because I think it's important for actors to understand when you choose someone, it's an important slot. Like yeah. So can you just talk about that for a second?
Well, it depends on the categories, of course. So categories that are kind of wide, like, okay, we're looking for someone in their 20s to mid 30s, female, can be any ethnicity, or male, any ethnicity, any of those kind of categories. We're looking at like 2,000 to 3,000 per role. Yeah, and I've got to go through all of those submissions. So, it's a lot. We get a lot of, and that's why, a lot of times I think a lot of casting directors kind of tend to rely on the people that they know. I definitely try, and I'll have some of that, but I always try and bring in new people every single time I cast, because that's kind of what it's about. You got to try and see new people and discover someone, and
and keep it fresh for your directors that you're working with. So out of those 2,000 people, how many people usually get to audition?
It was very different before than it is now.
You mean with the self-tapes and stuff?
Self-tapes, also just the COVID situation, because we have been doing some studio casting.
Right.
Yeah, so a little bit of that, with, of course, the option for people to self-tape if they're not comfortable.
How's that going, by the way?
That part's going really well. Most people choose to come in, and I love that. We definitely try and keep everything safe at the studio.
How are you doing that?
We're like, for one, when I schedule, I make sure that they have a lot of time to do their audition. So come in, sign in, do their audition, and then leave. So that hopefully the most that they'll see is one other actor coming into that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And then we have, of course, the antibacterial, we have a thermometer, we have the bathroom open for them to wash their hands. We have Lysol in the room in case the actor wants to spray before they perform or after. The camera operator keeps his mask on the whole time. He's about 20 feet away. We keep both doors open. We just try and get like airflow. So we try and do as much as we can. And we also only have like one job going at a time. So.
And just so, because I am giving my actors the option to come in or to tape, and in my gut tells me that it's better to go in. Is that true, or does it matter?
I feel like it is better, mainly because you have someone to give you direction. Try it this way. Being at home is fine, but you're kind of flying blind,
Right.
And some people are great at that, and then other people need a little more guidance. And I think that guidance is kind of important in this situation, because that's really what's going to happen on set,
Yeah.
So normally when I ask people to self-tape, I do ask them to do more than one take, and I give them sort of like a directive for, first take like this, second take like this.
But for most everyone, I think it's important for them to know that you're trying to keep yourself safe just as much as you're trying to keep the actors safe now when they come in.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's scary out there right now.
Yeah, it is. So you don't want to get sick either. You don't want your cameraman to get sick. So everybody's really taking ultra precautions.
Yeah.
When you're going in.
And there's some jobs that don't even want us to use the studio. They just want us to do self-tapes because they're worried about it too.
So I have a question about nerves for you.
Okay.
Because a lot of people who are watching right now, I'm sure there's a lot of people who love you, who are on here, who've known you for a long time, but also some of the viewers are brand new.
Right.
And when they come in for you and you're trying someone new out for the first time, and they have a lot of nerves and they're jittery, do you have any words of advice about nerves for them?
Yeah, it's kind of the same advice that I had about rejection, like you have to look at this as a practice, as something that you're constantly learning. And I think that's true for any actor, no matter how experienced they are, because it is a practice of trying to reach something inside yourself and be able to project that out. And So I feel like
my friend just put a glass of wine there.
exactly.
He was like, just drink a glass of wine.
Yeah, just do a shot. It's fine. Like, I mean, actually, you know, I've had people come in that were like real people, you know, that had no clue about what to do. And I mean, like when I had a friend come in, I did actually give her a shot on camera because it helped to just kind of calm her down a bit. But
calm her down.
yeah, but you know, like I think for first timers, they have to realize too that there's going to be somebody in that room. You know, the session director is there to kind of help them through it, and I'm watching in the back on the monitor. Most of the time, things are going smoothly. But if I need to come in and like give a note, it's, you know, I try and be really friendly. We also cook a lot in the studio, so there's the smell of bacon or whatever, which might soothe somebody.
I love that you are watching on the monitor, that you're caring about what's happening. Do you ever like, do you do that? You watch someone and you're like, they've got it, but if they just switched a little bit, so you'll come in and give notes?
Yeah, I'll give notes. Like, I'll usually watch and see what happens in the second take because you know, the camera guy, we've worked together so long that they know what I'm looking for. And if I don't see what the adjustment in the second take, then I usually run down the hallway or I text them. And if they don't answer, then I run down the hallway. So.
Yeah. And maybe something else that might help actors with nerves is that, you know, they've already beat out 1,500 people to
that might make me more nervous.
Well, I just mean you already like them. You're already for them. You already want them to get the job.
Exactly. I do. I want them to get the job. I love meeting somebody new and having them book it, or have an agent say to me, you got to see this person. And I say, go ahead, send them. And that person gets a call back and then gets booked. Like, that is just, I love that. It's amazing to me.
So what would make, aside from the people that you already know, when you're going through submissions, what makes us pick up something stand out? What makes an actor stand out for you on the submissions?
I mean, you know, I love photography. So for me, like, first of all, a good shot. That's eye-grabbing for me. That helps. That'll make me stop. Another thing is, you know, a lot of times with commercial photography, they tell you, oh, you know, you should be smiling in the photo or laughing or doing something funny, and I feel like, what's that?
I said, nope.
Yeah. But you know, that's the thing. I feel like if I'm looking at 2,000 to 3,000 photos of people smiling, I'm going to stop at the person who's not smiling.
Yep.
You know, like anything to kind of grab my attention. But, you know, beyond that, even if someone is smiling, it's about connecting to the camera. You know, if you can, it's that whole idea of being able to project yourself through that lens, you know, which is it's the job that they're choosing. So if you can connect with the camera and your personality comes through in that photo, that will make me stop too. And the other thing is any notes from the agent.
Yeah, notes
which
from
you're
us.
so great at.
And do you ever watch people's reels if you don't know them?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll watch their reels. I watch reels when they send them to me too, like, you know, and the thing about reels is you definitely want to put your best stuff first.
Yeah.
Because everyone watching it is looking for a reason to push that stop button, you know?
Yes.
So you got to have your strongest stuff first, and that can, at least that can hold someone's attention.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I do. I watch all that stuff. And I also look at the resume.
Right. That was my next question. So do you look at the training?
Yeah, I look at the training. I look at, you know, we do a lot of comedy stuff. So a lot of times I have to find people who are great at improv. So I'll look for, you know, if they're performing, you know, at any of the comedy clubs. Yeah. So I do look for that. Or even if an agent, you know, like, as long as the agent isn't stamping on everybody, you know, this person, like the exact same comment on every one of their submissions, you know, you're really good about that, Stacey. Like, you always put on there, you know, the background, you know, what they're strong at. But I trust the agents that I know, you know, and if they tell me this person you have to look at, I will.
That's amazing. I love that. And then I know that, you know, the comment that I get a lot is, and this is for actors that you know that you've been working with for a long time. Sometimes an actor will say to me, well, I used to be on their favorite list. I used to go into for them all the time, and I haven't seen them for a while. Can you talk a bit about how you have to kind of keep it fresh for your directors so you can't always bring the same people in all the time?
Oh, that's very true, because directors want something different all the time too. There's some that love to work with the same people all the time as well.
Uh-huh.
You always kind of have to stay current, and if they're seeing exactly the same people, and these are the people that book all the time, they're the ones that get a lot of visibility. It can sometimes work against them in booking the next job, because the conversations I'm hearing behind the scenes are, oh, well, that person was, in this commercial and it was really visible. They were the lead in that one. And, we don't want them for this spot now, even if it's not within the conflict.
Yeah.
It's just, it can be a visibility factor.
Right. So sometimes you might like not call somebody in for a while, and then you'll bring them back in and rotate them in. Do you do that? Do you rotate?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I don't have what I do on LA Casting. I do try to see all the submissions.
That's awesome.
I really try to do that. There's people that book jobs with me. I will, make a note on their picture, so that I know that they've worked with this director, or they were great at improv on this callback or whatever. So I try to make notes on all of that. So it makes it easier when I'm going through and picking people. I'm like, oh, this person has a green mark. Let's see what that says, And I'll know, okay, well, they already did, for example, a progressive job recently, so I can't really bring them in for another one right now.
Oh, okay.
But I also know that person booked a progressive job, so they're amazing at improv. So if I'm doing another kind of job, okay, automatically pick that person.
Do you, how do you like for actors to stay in touch with you? Like, do you like postcards? How do people stay in touch with you?
Postcards always feel a little wasteful.
Old school?
Well, it's old school. And, honestly, when I was in movies, we use them all the time. Movies, there's reason to have them,
Yeah.
You're just blowing through so many projects. Like, it's not something that you can really keep on file and then go back through, on top of your 2,000 to 3,000 submissions. Like, it doesn't really make sense. But if an actor has kept an eye on the breakdowns and is like, you know what, I just saw this role and I have this kind of background, would you mind seeing me for it? Then, I would look at that, and an email is free. So yeah. They have to pay for that. Like, I just think that that's a better way to go.
Do you mind if people send you an email and do you get actor emails where they'll send you?
I do get actor emails. Like, people send me reels. People ask me for advice through email. Like, I get all kinds of emails from actors.
Same.
Yeah.
When an actor comes into your office and it's their first audition, can you tell that it's their first audition? And can you tell if they've been to a class or they haven't? Like, if somebody slips through and they...
I think the obvious tell is if they're not familiar with how to slate. That's the obvious tell. But,
right.
But aside from that, I have to say that I've seen some very natural actors, people who come through and just have a confidence to them that you would not be able to tell. That's just where they belong. They belong in front of the camera.
Yeah.
So, some signs, but there are also people who are very experienced who come into our lobby and they don't know what job they're there for. They don't know what role. They don't know what casting director. And it's, so, you get everything across the board.
Right. I really feel like I tell people all the time, it's important to do your work, and I also always say, I really love smart actors.
Yes, I do too.
Yeah.
Smart actors. Yeah.
People who really, like, you can tell that they've done their research. They come in, they're prepared.
Yeah.
And they're smart. So they don't ask you questions that they can just, learn in a class, or, you know what I mean? It's important.
Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, I just want them to use, like be able to listen, like listen when you're, first of all to the direction, but also listen to the person that you're acting against, like your co-star for that moment. Like you have to be able to listen to what's happening and react as if you're in that moment.
Yeah.
And that might be another telltale sign, is when you see somebody who is just waiting for that person to finish their line so that they can interject.
Yeah, so they're not listening. And most of the great stuff happens when you don't have a line.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when the director's like, oh, that, because that's not what they're not thinking. They didn't write that down.
Exactly.
So you're introducing, you're bringing life to this thing.
Exactly. That's the thing. I mean, you have to imagine these people, the directors, the agents, the agencies, they have to watch like 20 takes of this in a row. So like in order to keep them from, wandering off and getting distracted, like you have to give them something special, something that's different, something that shows that you're present, and thinking, and that's where the smart actor comes in.
I feel like there's a lot of people also that have a misconception about commercials, because a lot of the directors, and this has been for a long time, are feature film directors, and so people think that they have to go over the top in commercials when really a lot of these directors want to make a piece of art.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about that? Like, do you see people like making the mistake of kind of going too hot, too big?
I think that's something that happens a lot. I saw it a lot in theatrical too, not just commercials, but yeah, definitely in commercials. I think there is a tendency to want to go that direction. And that's usually my second direction. I was telling you about it myself on the self tapes. My second take, tone it down, bring it down. Like we are always having to adjust people and say, just do less now. Like, throw it away a bit more.
Right. I think that that's about trusting yourself. I'm always saying to people, just trust that you're enough. For some reason, you're feeling like you have to like put a big dollop of like whipped cream on the top. Just, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes cake is just better without the whipped cream,
Yeah. And I think that really comes across, like when someone comes in and they don't have that sort of super eager energy, like, that they just want to bust through and like book the job. And I find that actors who come in and just like, slay, do it, stay very subtle on it, that's because that's kind of a different way to do it. That's the person that gets a callback.
Right.
And then it comes down to like, do something different.
Yeah. Even your energy when you were just doing that, you were more grounded.
Yeah.
Back in the pocket. I don't know if you remember Johnny Lee. Do you remember Johnny Lee?
Oh, of course. I love Johnny Lee.
So I used to represent Johnny Lee. And guys, he was this super laid back, super friendly. He booked a ton of commercials. He always forgot his headshot. He never brought his headshot to auditions. And he never dressed up for auditions, and he never shaved for auditions. And he booked the most out of anybody because he just like, hey guys, and everybody wanted to work with him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's another actor I was thinking of too, that every single time he would come in and slate, he wouldn't even look at the camera. He would say his name, like looking at the ceiling, looking around, and he booked all the time because he just wasn't like in your face. He was very like subdued, and he also had really good instincts. I mean,
yeah, you have to be a good actor.
Yeah.
And you can't be rude. There's like a fine line between just coming in and being real and coming in and acting like you're above it,
Right. Exactly. There's a big difference between the two. And
so sorry. No, you.
I forgot what I was saying.
That happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
So I have some questions about callbacks.
Okay.
In a callback, when an actor's already liked and and like maybe you love them and the director loves them. Have you ever seen someone lose that job, and was there something that they did when they came in the room and, you know, everybody's like rooting for them and then something happens? Like, have you seen anything happen like that?
Yeah, that happens sometimes. And a lot of the times it's, you know, they just say that the first audition was spectacular. They nailed it. And something happened in the callback where I don't know if maybe it was nerves or, you know, maybe that person had a bad day, you know, and just wasn't listening to direction and wasn't able to have that same energy that they did in the first. Or maybe it's the comfort level that they have. And, you know, it's very different coming in and doing your first audition with a session director that maybe you see all the time and that you're comfortable with, might even be your friend, you know, because they're usually actors.
Yeah.
And then like entering a room where you see a bunch of strangers and there's a director and there's agency people and sometimes there's clients, and it like the stakes are very different, and that can be very nerve-wracking, and I get that.
So have you ever had a friend of yours who's an actor who this happened to, and did you give them advice when they didn't get the job? Like, what would you say to someone who had that happen? Would you just, like, how does someone not make it so important and get freaked out in the callback?
That's the thing. It's the same thing. Oh, it's just, you know, you got to see it as a practice. You can't put a lot of weight on it. You know, you're going to keep going out on auditions and callbacks, and you have to just treat it like you're doing something you love. And that's it, regardless of who's on the other side of that camera, you know, and if there's a whole room full of people, this is what you're here for. And some people really shine in the situation, you know. You have the opposite.
Really what? Say it again.
Some people really shine in that situation, you know, like you have the opposite true too, where you have people who aren't that great in the first audition, but if you get them in the callback room, they're on fire, you know. So there's just different kinds of people, and I think, and I've seen some actors too that have had really bad days when they come into a callback, and it just. It's horrible. I hate that, but you know, a lot of times it really just escapes them. They just can't do it that day.
Yeah. And it is about feeding off the energy in the room sometimes, focusing on the one person who's got great energy in the room and just doing your thing and not trying to change it from the first audition to the callback, like really keeping whatever you did in that first audition that got you the callback, keeping that.
Yeah. Start there. You know, it's like start with what got you the callback, and then be sure to not be so nervous to listen to the direction after that. You know, it's hard. I mean, because you're literally trying to guess what somebody wants. Yeah. And it's not just what one person wants. It's what like 4 other people in the room want, and everybody wants something different. So it's you have to just go with your own instinct and not try and let that psych you out.
Yeah. I think if you kind of go in like almost like you're going to a table read, you know, like you're going in to just create art with these people and they either like you or they don't.
Yeah.
But it's about meeting a director that you would never have met before. And if he doesn't like you for this, so what? Maybe he'll remember you for the next one.
That happens a lot too. You know, like I have directors turn to me after a performance and they're like, not for this, but we have to come up with something for that person.
I love that. That just gave me chills.
I know. No, it's great. You know, because there's certain directors who just, you know, I'm pretty lucky because I work with a lot of nice directors and directors who care about actors and want to work with them when they get them in the room. So I find with those directors, they are always on the lookout and they're always like, you know, write that person's name down. I want them for the next one, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. I've even heard one director say, I want to write something for that actor. Like,
that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, we're all on the same side ultimately, you know? I think that's something that we all have to realize is we're all trying to work together to create something. And maybe one thing isn't going to be right for you, but there will be something else that is right for you.
Right. And that day you got to act. Like that day you got to go in and you got to do what you love to do. It's not about getting necessarily accolades for that right now. It's just about getting that audition and going, oh my God, somebody picked me today to come in and do what I love.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
let's just celebrate that, you know, for a second.
Good. I mean, I think that should really be the focus. And I know it's hard sometimes, especially in this climate where work is very sparse. But, you know, ultimately, if you are doing something you love, you have to let that feed your soul, you know, and not really worry so much about actually booking the job, because that will be a hindrance to you. That's going to be your obstacle to getting the job.
Right.
You know? And I've seen actors that have gone through bitter periods and they don't book during that time, you know?
No, actors, I try to tell people, like, if you have that energy, even if you don't think that you're acting that way when you come in, people can sense it.
Yeah.
If you're angry or bitter, or you're not really having a joyful time in your career, it might be time to kind of step back and go into the woods and get into a tent for a while.
Take a break.
Take a break. Come back joyful.
Break.
Yeah. Because this is very much like picking a partner in life, right? So if you go on a date with someone and they're angry about their life or they're bitter, chances are you're not going to go on a second date with them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
You know, you want to kind of be the person that someone's like, oh man, I'd like to go have a beer with him.
Yeah. That's exactly right. That's perfect. And it goes across the board, whether you're talking about commercials or theatrical, you know, like, we're very sensitive in the room, and we can sense it when somebody comes in and is just like, hey, I'm here, and I'm, you know, and it can be a little, it's the laws of physics. If someone pushes, you pull back, and vice versa. And it works that way in dating. We love about dating, right?
That's so good. I just got chills. If you go into the room and you push, everyone else is going to pull back.
Yeah. So you got to, like, kind of just be mellow about it and come in with just the attitude that you're doing this for yourself, you know?
Yeah. When an actor is at a callback and working with the director, okay, how much banter is too much banter when they're coming in for a callback? Like, when people, do you like it when people just come in, they do their work and they leave? Or have you seen people lose the job because they're coming in, they're trying to, like, talk too much and please? And
you know, it really depends on the director and the agency people. It's having, you have to be able to read that room.
Read the room.
Yeah, you have to be able to read the room. And some directors are really into it. They really want to have that connection with the actor and have a little banter and talk a little bit, you know, and others just want to see the performance. So there's no real formula for that, you know. It's just, you have to read the room. And it's just like in any other situation. You talk to somebody, you have to be able to read whether they're going to reciprocate or they want to be left alone, or, you know.
Maybe even let them start it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Just come in and just be professional and slate your name. And
exactly. I mean, if you come in the room and say, hey, how's everybody doing? You know, and you get an answer, then you might be able to throw something else in. But if nobody says anything, don't say anything else.
Okay, I have, this is a little bit of a magical question, so I don't know if there's an answer to this one.
Okay.
But I know that there's got to be something. This is the question I wrote down. What happens in the room when an actor, where is it? What happens in the room at a callback when it becomes obvious you're seeing the right person for the job?
That's also an energy thing. Like, you can feel it, you know? Like I said, we do a lot of comedy. So when everybody in the room is laughing, you know, and that's when you know, like, that person really hit it. And that is a magical thing. You know, it feels really good when you see someone just shine, and I get really excited for them. So.
And is there something that's said when they leave? Like, does everybody go, oh my God, or?
Oh yeah, there's always a discussion in between people, you know. If there's no discussion, then that person probably didn't do that great. But if they're talking about it and they're like, wow, you know, that's usually when I hear, okay, that's my choice. That's my top choice. And they write notes too on the side sheets, and we get to see that later, the things that they were thinking. But yeah, that's the moment we hear it. And then of course afterwards when we're laying out the selects.
Okay, so if you get that moment and it's like halfway through the session for that particular role, is it very hard for other people to come in and kind of, I don't want to say beat that, but is it when they're like, oh my God, that's it? Do you feel like, are people still open to the rest of the people coming in?
Yeah, they are. Because I think, especially at callbacks, we have the producer, the director, but also most of the time we have some creatives in the room. Okay, not anymore because of COVID. So they'd be on Zoom, but they're looking for someone to bring something to it. And even if someone nails it, they might nail it in the way that they were thinking. Someone else might come in and nail it in a way that they didn't think of. So
right.
I think that it's always still open, like I don't think, I mean, certainly a bar is set when they fall in love with someone, so that's where they want to be. But if someone comes in and knocks it out of the park in a different way, they're usually on the list too.
And, oh God, I just had a question in my head and I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh, so you just said something about COVID. So I was wondering, because you've gone through callbacks now during COVID, right? Yeah. Can you talk about a little bit to everyone about the process? Because a lot of people here have already done their self-tapes, but probably not a lot of them have gone through COVID callbacks with the director. What does that entail now?
We've been doing it both ways, like where we do, for one, the director, the agency, the clients, they're always on Zoom. So they don't come in.
Okay.
We usually will go to the studio, like the last couple of times I've had a callback in studio. I give the actors, again, after, an option. Do you want to come in and do your callback, or do you want to Zoom in? So if they're not comfortable with coming to the studio, then what we do is we send them the Zoom link, but they can only come in at their assigned time. And when they enter like sort of a waiting room when they come into Zoom, and then the session director will let them in when it's time for them to come. So it operates kind of the same way, it's just more virtual now.
And have you seen someone who, has someone actually booked a job when they didn't actually come in and interact with the director, when they interacted just with Zoom on your jobs? They have.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's happened even on jobs where we've Skyped in people before COVID, where they just knocked it out of the park, like through Skype, and then they booked the job. I mean, it's happened before, and it's going to keep happening that way too. I don't think you have to be in the room, as long as there's that interaction, they can see. And I've actually had directors book talent without even working with them.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they just know their work? They just knew their work.
Sometimes it's that they know their work, or sometimes it's not even like, that performance driven. So they'll just be like, I like this person's look, and I don't need to know if they have a great personality. I just want to use them in the shoot.
Right. And it's something that where they're just like, they're not the main character. They're like a, person driving the car.
Character, but it's just a look thing,
It's a look thing.
Yeah. Like it's more of a modeling kind of commercial than sometimes.
Have you ever had to really fight for an actor you believed in, but the producers were like leading in a different way?
Yeah. I mean, if I really believe in someone, then I'll try and interject, because I'm in the room when we're talking about selects, and I'll just, kind of be like, well, this person, they have this kind of background. This is they've done this film. They've done, improv at the Groundlings, or, I try and sell them that way. I'm not really pushy, because again, it's the whole thing of like, if you push, they'll pull back. So I always try and just make it really casual, and, try and plant the seed and then hope they pick up on it. And sometimes it works.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes you're able to say, hey, this person's really amazing.
Yeah.
And then they hire them.
And then they hire them. Yeah. Like sometimes that person becomes the first choice. you know? So I think that, you know, the nice thing about being in a room with the director and the agency is, especially with people who are nice people, like I've been very lucky to work with, knock on wood, that they're open to listening and they're open to other people's opinions, and they'll even ask the session director what they think too, you know?
Really?
So, yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, like we're in a full-on open discussion about who we think is right for it, and, you know, everybody kind of has their say. And so that's when we kind of interject who we think is right for it.
You know what's really important for all the people watching this to understand about what you just said is I think sometimes people think that there's important people at an audition and unimportant people at an audition. And, you know, from the person that signs you in to the person who's behind the camera, if you're only being kind to the director and the casting director and not the assistant and the you know, the person who's signing you in, everyone makes a difference, right?
Absolutely. I got to tell you, like, you know, there have been times when actors have come in and been super rude to my lobby people, and when they come back and they tell me that, I red mark them. I won't bring them in again, you know, because for me, like I said, it's about the people, you know, and it's about our everyday experience of interacting with people. And if that person's going to come in and be negative and be rude, I don't want that energy in our studio, you know, and I don't want that energy on set. Like, I don't want to be responsible for putting that person there. So, yeah, I think it's really important to, I mean, I think it's very important to just be nice to everybody.
Right.
You know, like I don't, when I'm working on a production, you know, if a PA comes in, I'm super nice to the PA. You know, I'm not only nice to the director and the producer, you know, I'm going to be really kind to the PA too. And I love it when they bring me coffee, you know, like,
yep.
Them. So it's just being a good human, I think, is really important when you want to be a good actor.
Yeah. And I feel like sometimes actors don't understand it's a very, very small business. We all know each other. We all talk. And so it's just really important that you have a lot of respect for everyone.
Absolutely. It's super important. Respect is, especially now, I think there was a time where directors, producers, I mean, people in our industry and in the theatrical industry, they, you know, they believed that being an asshole meant being powerful. And I think that kind of trickled down a lot to people and how they interacted, you know, but I think that's gone now. I think that they just want to work with other nice people. Like, why make everything difficult? Let's just have a good time, enjoy the process. And you can't do that with an asshole. So.
Do you have you ever had actors that you talked to that, you know, you probably knew during when you were casting the features, who sort of poo-pooed commercials? Did you? And I have my own thing of what I say to actors when they come in and tell me they don't want to do commercials. But
you know, I have to say that I don't think that anybody poo-poos commercials anymore. I mean, so
not true.
Well, you know, like, I guess when they're talking to me, maybe they just don't, you know, they don't say anything. I mean, I think I have a couple of actors that definitely, for actor friends that definitely would prefer to do theatrical, and I completely understand that, you know, but they're still going out on commercial auditions because it gets them more money. So there's still, you know, some level of respect there. I mean, and I used to see a lot of actors in theatrical, you know, like on those films with Ivan and I see them now coming in for commercials, and I love it. You know, like I always try and remind them. I'm like, oh my gosh, I met you like in '92, you know, and I saw you for this film, and we ended up booking you, and then they trip out. But
I always say, if Brad Pitt and George Clooney and Julia Roberts can all do commercials,
exactly, they're
all doing it. So
look, our industry has completely changed. You know, you have, like, you know, feature film actors now doing TV and doing commercials, and unfortunately, I think that's been really rough on the
working class actor.
Class actor, you know, all the roles are being taken by huge name actors. But you know, it kind of goes to show you, like, we just all want to make a living, and there's no shame in that. You know?
It's all work.
Yeah,
it's all, you know, you have to be a good actor no matter what you're doing. And I feel like it's brand new actors who have an idea about what being a real actor is, instead of just realizing that it's all acting. And that, you know, a feature film director is directing commercials, and
this is all connections.
It's and it's just as much a piece of art to that director as his TV show or his feature film. You know? And so none of it is, I find that, you know, sometimes I just get an actor and he's like, I just want to do features. And I'm like, I'm probably not the right agent for you.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
No, I completely agree with you. I mean, every job you book is an opportunity to work with new people. And if you can make a good impression, you know, that's a relationship that you can foster in the future.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you. Like, I work with a lot of directors who either come from a feature background or are in the works of doing a feature for the first time, you know, and they're, you know, they are always looking for new talent to bring with them onto their other projects. And also, all the time, I'm seeing on the series and in films, all of the people that we audition in commercials, I'm always like, oh yeah, that guy comes in for us all the time, you know, and it's great to see them doing work in theatrical.
Yeah. I remember back in the day when I was auditioning, and I looked up, and the woman, she was on The West Wing.
Oh.
It's a recurring on The West Wing, and I would see her all the time, and I was like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I want to make money just like everybody else.
Exactly. We see theatrical actors all the time in commercials, you know, and they come out for it because it is good money and it is a good opportunity.
Yep. I totally agree. So if there was like one bit of inspiration, or I know a lot of, you know, what's going on in the world right now is really hard. And especially what's going, you know, it's also in our business, it's in Los Angeles. There's just, there's a joy, because I feel like everyone's truth is bubbling up right now. So we're seeing it, you know, and there is like a coming together, but I think that there's a heaviness. And I wonder if you have any just words of advice about how, you know, when you're feeling like the world, there's so much heaviness in the world, how do you kind of switch and come back to work?
Advice for the actors on that?
Anybody. I mean, actors.
You know, I feel like, first of all, I don't watch the news because I don't either. It depresses me.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's already enough that I see it on social media. So I get little bits here and there from that. And that's one thing, is I think it's really important to kind of put that aside for a good portion of your day. Certainly don't start your day with any of that. And also just focus on the things that make you happy, you know, like the thing that's kind of nice right now. I know it sucks because we don't have a lot of projects that are going around right now. They're not really, you know, people are afraid to shoot in LA. But the projects that are going around, you know, I've been seeing actors are doing self-tapes. I've been doing jobs where you can do a self-tape, you know, and that allows you to stay home, be with your kids, whatever it is, and still do your work. So that's at least some kind of a silver lining. You know, if it makes you happy to cook, if it makes you happy to swim, I don't know, like do things that make you happy, because, you know, even if everything is terrible in the world right now, at least you can kind of isolate yourself into a little cubicle and just be like, this is my happy place.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stay positive here. And something that I've been doing every day, which has really helped me, is I've been journaling like three pages a day.
Wow.
Yeah. 3 pages every morning. I have 2 journals. I have one just to write about anything that comes in my head, and another one where I write about my dreams. And I have to say that it's really helped me kind of unblock for a lot of the other creative things that I like to do, you know? So like writing, doing photography, any kind of art, you know, I mean, you paint.
I paint.
Yeah, and like sometimes it's really hard to kind of make that brain to hand connection. And I feel like doing this kind of journaling, it gets a lot of the stress out, and you can write about the things that upset you, and you can write about the things that make you happy. And I feel like it's been very therapeutic. So that would be my advice.
I love that too, because it also channels your creative energy in a different direction.
It does. And actually, I got that idea from, I started reading The Artist's Way.
I knew it was The Artist's Way. I knew
Yeah.
it.
Yep. That's where I started reading about that. And I was like, wow, that's actually a really clever idea. And it has. I feel like it's unblocked me in like my writing and stuff. And so I would say focus on those things, all the things that you never had time to do, like the things that bring you happiness, like do it.
Yeah. And that's going to help you when an actor comes in for you, because you're going to feel that. You're going to feel like there's not a desperation.
Right. Yeah, if you can pour your love into other things that make you happy, that is something that you carry with you, And if you come into the room, that's another thing that you share in the room. It may not be completely visible, like we're not seeing your drawings or whatever it might be, but we're seeing that you feel fulfilled. And I think that that's really important when you come into a room, is to sort of project that feeling that you're a whole person, and you're not missing anything. You're
a whole person.
Yeah.
I like that, because I think a lot of times actors feel like they need these jobs to validate them. And when you are a whole person, you don't need anything to validate you.
No. I mean, and you have more to offer when you have that kind of energy, like that it isn't just acting that satisfies, if you hinge anything on one thing only, of course you're going to have some kind of feeling of desperation for it. But if you have like other things that kind of feed your soul, sports, I don't know, whatever it is, like if you can get gratification from that, then you come in already happy and gratified, you're not looking.
Your photography is amazing.
Oh, thanks, Stacey. And so are your paintings. I love your paintings.
Thank you. I mean, I stalked you. I stalked you online, right? And I was just like, oh my God, there's so much depth. And I think that the only way for you to capture that kind of depth is because you have that depth, and those black and whites are just astounding.
I do love black and white. Yeah, it's been my passion. Like that was my first passion, actually.
Photography?
Yeah. I really thought I was going to be like a photographer and maybe a photojournalist. I wasn't sure what it was going to be, but that's what I really wanted when I was in high school. And then I ended up going to film school and then becoming a casting director. I don't know how all of that happened.
I think that all ties in together, actually.
It kind of does. I think that having an eye, like I really can say, I mean, my favorite jobs are jobs where I have to match people, like from a young age to an old age or something like that.
I just lost you.
Oh.
You said your favorite jobs are when you have to match?
When I have to match people, like from like an age progression type of thing, or families and stuff, because I'm very visual, and I like to try and do things like that. That's really challenging to me, and I just love it so much. That's my favorite kind of casting job.
Oh, I love that. I have about 30 seconds left before I have to make sure I can save this.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to come back, but if you were going to say any parting words to all the actors here, what would it be?
I so appreciate what you do. You're one of my agents that I trust implicitly. And I can't do my job without you and other agents like you, like it would be impossible.
You're going to make me cry.
Well, it's true, like you give me great notes on your people, and I know that the people that you pitch to me are ones that I need to see. So, and they are ones that we end up calling back or booking. So I really appreciate that.
I love that. Love that.
Right. You've got a good team on your hands.
Yes.
And great actors. That's the thing. Like I also want the actors to know that I understand how hard it is, what they're doing. And And it's so hard to make yourself vulnerable every day and to face rejection a lot of the time, you know, and I completely respect that, you know, and I feel for them. So I hope that I don't come across like I'm making light of what they do. Cause I feel like, you know, to say it's a practice. I mean, I know that might sound maybe, I hope it doesn't sound flip, but I just try not to take things personally because it is such, actors are sensitive people, you know, you can't do that job unless you're a sensitive person.
Right.
And it's gotta hurt, you know, after a while. And it takes a lot of work to not let it get to you. So I just want them to know I understand and I feel for them. Like I get really bummed when people that I want to book the job don't get it or don't get a call back, and you know, and it's just the way things go, and there's too many factors in play.
Yeah. I like to say that this business is silly, you know,
Yeah.
and we're all just kind of playing in it. And first of all, I don't think you were being flippant at all. I'm actually quite in awe of the things that you were saying and how grounded you are. And
Tracy, I'm glad.
What?
I'm glad I didn't come off like that.
No, you come off as just like, actually, if I was still acting, I'd be like, man, I want to come audition for her. Because you just seem really just, and I know this of you, but you just feel like one of those casting directors who's really open and loving, and you're also an artist, so you understand the art of it.
Yeah.
And you're not, your energy is just, it is love and joyful, you know? So I feel like everything, the whole last hour, I really respect all of what you just gave to everyone. Like, and I don't want to, I want to thank you because I feel like, you know, I started doing these. Usually we don't have time to do something like this, to give this much time to actors. But
yeah.
And even now, it's like, now that you have this little bit of a break, like the fact that you're sharing with people and taking the time to just impart some wisdom.
Oh, I love it. I love being able to talk to everybody, even if it's through this. I miss it. I miss talking.
Yeah, I feel like there's sometimes, especially when actors are new, they feel like there's a mystery to the business and they don't understand that we're all just people.
Yeah.
And we're all just trying to do the same thing they're trying to do, which is just create art, you know? And so if you can come to the table with your particular group of paints and colors and camera or whatever, and just come into the room and create the art, then when you leave, you're going to feel filled without having to necessarily get the job.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I just hope that people who do walk away and feel good about it. And I know sometimes they walk away thinking I booked it, you know, and that's got to be disappointing if they don't. But just to know that you really entertained people, you can read it in the room, you know, if they're laughing, you're doing it right, you know, if it's a comedy.
Yeah.
Comedy scene and they're laughing. You did something really great, you know, and that, I mean, not that it's enough, you know, because I know we need to book jobs, but hopefully that's enough to fill your soul, you know, and to walk away and feel like I did good, you know, maybe I didn't book it. There's all kinds of crazy reasons that could have happened, but I did a good job.
And it is also telling, if you're bringing people back in multiple times, then that is also feedback for the actor, right?
Absolutely. Like that, getting a call back is feedback, getting called back in is feedback, you know? And I don't know, sometimes I feel like I wish I could give them more feedback, you know? But it's not possible always. If you know what, if agents email me and ask me for feedback, I give it to them.
Yeah. Here's what I feel about feedback. We should always just be looking forward, right?
Yeah.
So you go to the audition and you just keep moving, right? So it's, you go home to your kids or you go pick up your camera, but it doesn't really matter what people think about you. Like if Shane is calling you back in again for another job, that means you did great in your last audition. You just didn't book it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, like a lot of times that's the only feedback I can give is they did great, because I know they came in and they did their best, you know? And I'm certainly not going to sit there and say, you should have done this or you should have done that, because I can't even guess what they're looking for, you know?
Right.
So it's one of those things, you have to just feel good about what you did in yourself.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing acting for yourself, you know? Like this is something that feeds you, so let it feed you.
Yeah. I almost, when an actor asks me to call for feedback, I'm like, that's your ego talking. I chose to represent you because I believe in your work.
There you
and
go.
So I don't need a casting director to validate that for me. The only time I'll ever call a casting director is if I've just started representing someone and maybe they don't have a lot of experience.
Right.
And I'll email and say, how'd they do? Or even before they go in, I'll email and say, hey, you're calling in somebody, this is their first audition. Will you make sure to check the monitor and give me some feedback? Sometimes
Right.
I'll do that.
Yeah, no, I think that's really the only time that's really necessary, because every job is different and you can't guess at what that person might or might not have done wrong. You know, I can have advice, but my advice is going to be the same. Do something different, make yourself noticeable. That's it.
I think I asked you this before, but I wanted to just kind of put a stamp on it again. How important to you is actors going to a commercial class or going to an improv class? Like, how important is training?
I think training is really important. I mean, you know, we all go to school for part of our lives to learn things, you know, and I think that there's a lot of learning you can do on your own as an actor, certainly, but to have that kind of, again, feedback, where you're in a class situation and you get to actually practice, because this, like, again, this is a practice. Everything that we do in life is a practice, but especially something like acting, where you have to interact with someone else, be able to work with them, whether it's with lines or with improv. That's really valuable, to be able to have that scheduled interaction, also an instructor that guides you and acts as sort of a director, and a mirror, you know, like it's invaluable. Like,
right.
If you love it, study it, you know,
right.
Do your homework, like watch a lot of movies, take some classes, work with a coach. Like, I think all of that's super valuable.
Yeah, yeah. Because also class is going to prepare you to get into the room, and every director is going to give you notes in a different way, and you have to be able to shift that. And the only way to really do that is to know your craft.
Yeah, to know your craft and work with different people.
Yeah.
Like you can, I mean, that's the thing. I have an actor friend who, you know, was taking classes with one instructor and really followed everything that one instructor said. And I just kept telling him, you know, you need to diversify. Like, okay, you're good at drama, but you need to get into comedy. Like you need all aspects of acting, you know, like you don't just focus on one thing, you know, you need to be complete.
Yeah.
In your abilities. And so you know, my advice is always like, don't just do one thing. Like, try improv, try method, try everything. See what works for you, you know?
You know, Albert Einstein used to say that his religion was he called his religion mosaic, because he pulled from everything.
Yes, yes.
And I feel like I always say that to actors, like, have your training be mosaic, so that when you go onto a set and you're working with this director, you're like, oh, good, I'm good. But I had an invite to talk at an acting class once, and I read some of his reviews on Yelp, and I said, you know, do you just need to know that I believe in training with multiple people, And if an actor asks me that question, I'm going to say that. And he disinvited me.
Wow.
He said, I don't want you to say that in my class. And I said, well, we can hang up now. You don't have to give me an answer now, but I believe that an actor needs to train with different people. So if you don't want me saying in that, I'm probably not the best guest for you.
Right. Right. I mean, but that is the right advice. You know, you're not only going to be working with one director and one crew for the rest of your life. You know, you're always going to be working with multiple people. So diversify, you know?
Yeah. I just need to just say this so that we don't get off the phone without me telling you, but I wore this and this for you. Because I feel like you have the best jewelry and you're so cool.
I love jewelry, but yeah, you know what? In these times, I haven't been wearing much because I'm so scared of like having to sanitize everything. And
oh, I haven't worn anything. My husband, before he left the house, he was like, "You put on makeup," and I'm like, "I did for Shane."
And I put on makeup for you.
I love it. I just adore you. I really adore you. I feel like you're my friend, even though we don't hang out.
I know, but you know, hopefully when things go back to normal, we can hang out because I would love to hang out with you.
I would love to grab a cup of tea or something with you.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for coming on here. I think it's really invaluable, the wisdom you just imparted. And I feel like you demystified a lot. Like, I feel like when people come in now for you, they're going to feel like they know you.
Yeah.
And I just really, I appreciate you so much.
Oh, I appreciate you too, Stacey. And thank you to all your actors too for tuning in and listening to me yammer.
I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. You too, honey.